Hey everybody, my name is Sky and this is Chantal, and we are the Women Healing Naturally podcast. We're both, raw vegans, high raw vegans, and we're at the age where they're perimenopause. We want to talk about it. I actually have been in menopause for a while surgically, but this is a big topic with people I work with as well, and I know you work with women. So first off, how are you, Chantal?
I'm okay. How are you? I'm sorry for this very white light. I'm in an Airbnb in Lisbon, so not in my office, and it's very in your face. So,
That's all right. I'm grateful that you're here.
me
So,
too.
yeah, so this topic, you brought up this topic. Do you want to start on this topic? Because I feel like this is, forefront for you.
100%. So I wanted to talk about perimenopause and the journey of these symptoms coming up because a lot of the understanding of perimenopause is still that it's about 2 years before you go into menopause, when in
Mm.
fact perimenopause actually starts as early as 14 years before we get into menopause. So it can start in your mid 30s. So what perimenopause means as a period of time is that chunk of time where your hormone levels start slowly declining. And generally speaking, at the beginning, between 35 and 45 even, if they are declining slowly, most people don't feel any changes that are dramatic and drastic. But and actually sometimes even two all the way to through like menopause. But we don't live a very balanced life, and some of us have gone through different things. Like for me, it was at 38 when I went through the very, like, the dark night of the soul, and everything came out, and I was just like completely all over the place in 2019. The symptoms of perimenopause were really, really clear. They started in 2016. I didn't acknowledge them at all. I just thought, I'm stressed. I'm going around in London, like living the London life. But as they escalated with all the emotional stuff in 2019 and everything we shared on our last chat, the symptoms started popping up, and a lot of women feel that. So, but unless you, and it doesn't have to be like a traumatic experience. It doesn't have to be anything other than a little bit some stress, maybe more than before, or something does happen, or they start changing, and you get into your early 40s, and your body just doesn't feel the same. And that's the first thing that people say. They're like, I just don't feel the same. And so I wanted to talk about the array of symptoms, because when we don't feel the same and we talk about it with our doctors, allopathic doctors in particular, they dismiss it as it's in your head. And the amount of women that go and complain about, low mood and feeling more stressed and having anxiety, and the first thing they're told is, well, here an antidepressant. That is
Yes.
insane.
So I actually feel like, because just a bit of my backstory, I have been in surgical menopause for 15 years, but I actually was put into chemically induced menopause before surgical menopause. So I do know the symptoms dramatically when I was very sick. But I do notice, because HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is at the forefront of, what do we want to say, the trending medicine right now. So there's been a big change. So it's at the forefront. I feel doctors are more aware when a woman comes in, right? But they're also, still nothing's changed, I believe, in the antidepressant and the HRT route, where all lifestyle diseases, but especially this one, I feel, even because I've just dropped my hormones again and I'm going through something again, just because that's what it's like when you are on some estrogen therapy. And so I think it's really important that we as women take power. And the other thing is just before you get started, what I have noticed about people who come to me noticing their perimenopause symptoms, or even, my story is very hormone related. I had a second piece of uterus called endostromatosis. So I'm very aware of this interplay with even disease, stress, and hormones. Because a lot of women come to me and they have all of these symptoms we're about to talk about, but there's a precursor. And I'm noticing, as my hormones drop right now, there's a protective mechanism, it's only estrogen, that I've lost, a barrier. So a lot of them come to me and they said, all this came on, all these symptoms, with COVID, and then menopause dropped, and then long haul COVID. There was some sort of death, and it's come to the forefront. So you can call it a disease, but I just wanted to say my experience was when I was 8 and I got the chicken pox, and then I got this chronic fatigue for 3 years, is they traced back this second piece of uterus in me, because hormones start getting released at 8.
Yes.
To prepare you for 13 at puberty, it would have been my vulnerable time too, because I'd had illnesses before and recovered, right, as a child, but for some reason. So I just wanted to put that at the forefront for people to think about while you explain these symptoms, because it seems like and I think it's just my story brings out, but I attract those type of people, is there seems to be this alignment.
Yes, definitely. In your case, in the case of people who are hormone sensitive, let's call them this way, they are very prone to
Yes.
different ailments that are linked to hormonal balances, natural hormonal balance in the body. It can be exacerbated. It's like it can be a lot more obvious. It can be a lot. You can trace it back to puberty. You can trace it back to when hormones starts rising and things are changing and shifting. For the general population who doesn't have specific ailments, then this period of time from 35 on, this is when we start noticing. But the parallels are that, yes, a lot of the things that we face are in fact linked to hormone balance and hormone levels, and estrogen is a big player in that. She's a prominent, I mean, there are so many hormones in our body, but she's a prominent one that obviously for our female body really works hard at keeping us healthy, keeping all the organs healthy, because every single part of our body has receptors for estrogen. But equally, it's really important to balance it out with progesterone. And another thing that does, decrease in perimenopause can be progesterone, which means we are going to have some different, this is where the anxiety kicks in. This is where the sleeplessness kicks in. This is where feeling calm and steady becomes a little less calm and steady because of progesterone. So if these two are not dancing, with each other, then it's definitely when we start feeling like, what's going on here? So you wanted to say something, I'm going to let you say it, and then we'll go into like the different.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think when you talk about people who have pre-existing weaknesses, which are quite strong, what I feel in my body happens is estrogen over progesterone is that protector, is that I have crutched on, and I'm learning to look after myself more, so I don't need it in my system as much. But I learn from what I go through, right? So I wonder if that's why, because we're very inflamed society. And also I learned when I was around a lot of gynecologists, is some women are more prone to be progesterone reliant and estrogen reliant, and it is a body type. This is what the gynecologist said to me. So I have the more androgen, the wider shoulders. I put weight around my stomach. I have boobs. Progesterone girlies are more, and I have no thighs or hips. Progesterone girlies are more, the protective is down around the uterus area, right? They have the hips. They tend to put weight on their thighs. I tend to put it up the top. And I learnt that early. So that's very general, but they said that that's how you know the type. You don't even need to, once you look at their blood test, you can see the relationship that they'll have. Those sort of bottom heavy women have high progesterone, and then the top, there's tummy women, and that's puberty. That's not menopause. Your body changes. So, but yeah, I was an estrogen girly, so I find the protective properties there. But let's talk about these symptoms.
Yeah, then but what you say is very interesting, because my experience with even estriol, like, and I think for me, I also was very estrogen. I was more estrogen prominent as in my teenage years. So the hips and the thighs, and then I went on the pill when I was 18, and I was always carrying that extra cushioning. And I must say, like, in fact, when I had the reaction to the estriol vaginal cream, the bloating started from the navel all the way down to the knees, so the bottom parts, because
Mine does
that
that.
and the lymphatic nodes in my groin were feeling really hard. So I know that I'm very sensitive to estrogen, and I put it down maybe that my levels are not low enough for me to add any kind of estrogen, even if it's estriol and not estradiol, and so it's weaker. But I will only really know when I do go into menopause, and I do intend to actually support my body, perhaps with HRT. I am now looking at a bigger frame and a bigger picture. For example, can I help my body with things like yams for progesterone and Vitex for estrogen? And I've noticed that if I cannot take yams all month, I need to cycle it as if I was in my week before my period only, because otherwise it makes me feel bloated. So for people like us who are aware of our bodies, working with a doctor and understanding how to work with hormones can be very fascinating. But a lot of people are doing it really without having guidance, whether it's a natural cream or not, because natural creams work. And remember that even the progesterone that they sell in the store, the estrogen that's in the store from the pharmacies, they are coming from plants. They just then patented, and therefore are medication now. So they are formulated so that they can be called meditation and being patented, and there is money to make. You don't make money out of wild yams. So just that precursor to how we
Yeah.
approach hormone
I
therapy.
also wanted to say is, just for those people out there who, and I don't know a huge amount about the progesterone because I've never needed it every time I've had it, it hasn't worked for me. I do use a bit of the wild yam cream. When my estrogen's lower, I notice it. When my estrogen's higher, can't feel it. But when I did a little bit of research on estrogen receptors, and because a lot of people are like, I'm going to use food, I'm going to fix this with all the phytoestrogens or photoestrogens in like the flaxseed and things like that. And it's in quite a few foods. People talk about soy. From what I understand is you have multiple estrogen receptors in the body. You have alpha, beta, you can call them A, B, C, different types. There's different types of estrogens. And the phytoestrogen has this tendency to sit on the B receptor, which is, let's call it non-symptomatic, or doesn't give you boobs, water retention, but also doesn't go and help with skin repair. I mean, the flaxseed itself will, but that it's a different, more benign estrogen. So I just want, because there's always more to it. That's the thing with science, right? Is there's always different levels to it.
Phytoestrogens from food, as I was talking about this, I was really talking about medicinal plants in this case, which are obviously more powerful than the food.
Yeah, no, I just looked up what Vitex was and stuff. Because a lot of people want to use, and I get it, right? But I like to make people mindful that, and like, because as you're saying is, you're thinking in the future, if you do use estradiol, which is quite strong, you were using like microdosing, especially if you've got a clean body. Because I was used to use massive doses of estradiol, but my body was toxic, right? So it's got to go through so much to get and even do its job. Whereas now I've learned that I'm so clean, it's very efficient, right?
Yeah, sorry, I was laughing because somebody said, "Sky, another lady."
What? What happened?
Hey, Sky, another lady, Chantal. Nice to meet you.
I hear that often. People will go, "You and another lady at Chantal." Yeah, there's got a lot going on the screen here. We usually can get names up, but yes.
That's funny. So with that precursor in mind, let's talk about the common
Yes.
symptoms. So the first thing is, people say, I don't feel like myself anymore. Things like the first thing that people acknowledge is the food that they always used to eat before does not agree with them anymore. And that can even manifest in how their body reacts, meaning I never put on weight with a certain food, but now when I eat it, I put on weight. I never had digestive issues with a certain food, now I cannot digest it. I never had an issue eating later at night, like around even 8 o'clock. Now I can't have dinner. So there are an array of things that happen with digestive system, and this is very, very common. Now, this has got to do with different things. It's not just metabolism lowering, that's got nothing to do with it. But again, well, not that it's not nothing to do with it. It's, well, metabolism is an array of, of, of mechanisms, right, that include hormones. So yes, metabolism is included, but not the way that people understand metabolism. So your thyroid, of course, has to be checked, making sure it's still working, it's still supported. Parathyroid, very important, and that's connected to your whole endocrine system. We talk about how your adrenals are super important, because if your adrenals are tired, they're not working well. The many we know, we only talk about adrenaline and cortisol from the adrenal, but there are hundreds of hormones coming out of there, and they all regulate our parasympathetic system. So everything that happens in our body, and if we go, and especially as we get more stressed and our estrogen lowers, our food will give us some problems. So we start putting on weight if we eat the same things we ate before. Something that I've noticed with my patients is when they eat grains work for them. I actually noticed with me too. I used to eat a bucket load of rice and never had a problem with it. Now if I eat rice, I just can't do it. I can have bloomed rice somehow because it's wild and it's not actually a rice, it's a seed.
Bloomed. Yep.
So it's raw and it's actually been basically sprouted, but it's not really rice, not your basmati and your white rice or whatever. It's actually a black rice, wild rice, which is a seed, like quinoa, like buckwheat.
Yeah.
Those I can tolerate. I can't have it. I can't have them as much. But I've noticed people struggle with grains. They're like, oh, I really can't eat grains. I used to eat pizza and bread and no problem, and now I really just cannot. As soon as I eat a plunk on my belly, and I get this pouch.
Yeah.
And that's something that happens. And the bloating, of course. Now, this also happens because a lot of people eat a lot of refined diets, and I like to actually identify or separate the fact that when we talk about a lot of symptoms, they also do come in tandem with people's lifestyle who are not excellent and optimal. Okay, so we have to acknowledge that it's not like our body just betrays us and hates us. The reality is most people are not looking after themselves at all, and these symptoms escalate because the groundwork has not been done and is not being done.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah, so I 100% agree. When I think of some of the foods that you mentioned, and just because I am in menopause and I notice a response on my body, and I've done the fruits, I've done more greens and seeds, and I'm doing now more savory fruits and flax oil and what else am I doing? A few seeds and things like that. Is a lot of the foods you're talking about, when I think about what doesn't work for my body now I'm in menopause, is the carb ratio in some of these foods is just because it's not that carbs are bad, it's that progesterone and estrogen are heavily involved in our metabolism and blood sugar regulation in the body in multiple systems. And as we age, our blood sugar isn't as regulated, but then you take away something it was relying on. So I just notice the physique in my body changes as I lower carbs. Now, if I jump over to carbs, I have blood sugar problems, but what I do notice is I lose weight, but not where I want to, which I think when you're younger doesn't happen either, right? Is you just lose, you can just fast for a day or two and your body just seems to come back to normal. When you age, it's like, even if I try and do green juices for a day, if I haven't had enough fats and even seeds with proteins and things in them, I will age faster than anything. And this, as I age, now I'm well into menopause, is very quick. So I was just thinking about that with some of the foods you're talking about, like the rices, they're slower on digestion, but they do really spike that blood sugar there. When the other thing that people, I don't know how, the symptoms I always hear and I feel when my estrogen changes is smells. So it's like all of a sudden things can smell so different. Like my brain can't interpret. And I see all these women online saying, their husbands saying, I know my partner's going through perimenopause, because she's like, she'll smell something and she's so disgusted by it. or it's changed in some way. The way, because that's, you've got neurotransmitters in the brain. You think about a woman pregnant, all of a sudden some things she could eat, some things she couldn't. And I get a lot of people with histamine issues. Once again, that protective mechanism's going, but usually it's like there's a pile up underneath where the person's had not great diet, they've had stressful events, perimenopause kicks in, and the body then, its immune system is like, I'm not letting go. You can't keep bombarding me with inflammation. Depression and fatigue. They're the ones I hear most.
Yeah, and it comes down also to the fact that, again, with the digestive part and the food that we have, and it don't work for us anymore, it's also the fact that our gut is changing. And a lot of women who don't have a good microbiome lose this particular microbacteria, estrobolome.
Yes.
And estrobolome is incredibly
Yes.
important in managing estrogen, because the thing is that there are two pathways that we have to know when estrogen is in the body. That is the E2 and the E16. E2 is a pathway where it's an hepatic pathway where the liver processes the extra the leftover estrogen, and then you will eliminate it from the body, and it will go liver, gut, poop. But if it goes via the E16, if your liver is very toxic, it recycles back into your body, and it's 100 times worse than when you had it originally, of its original product. So it can actually cause a whole array of issues. One of them would be how your metabolism is working. So how your sugar metabolism, and already with lowering estrogen, we already become resistant to sugar. And then we now have this recycled estrogen into our body that is not the good estrogen, is the toxic one. And so our body's just, and where do you put this to preserve life? You're going to put it in fat cells, and this is what ends up being on your belly fat. So this is why this happens in a lot for a lot of women. So something else to look after if we want to go through perimenopause without excessive symptoms is really looking after our liver. That's like one of the key elements of well-being anyway.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at I just moved across just because I was looking at that. I know that there is gut bacteria for estrogen, and it's really important that we have that. But it's also this document's talking about, and this is a big thing in the media, is and at the forefront of doctors, same in the media, but forefront for doctors is the gut-brain axis. And
Yes.
this document is talking about how, and I know because I've recently had a huge amount of estrogen in and I've dropped it again because this diet is now working for me, is the fear response and fear conditioning that happens, anxiety, because we have an estrogen overload. That's the recycling, the estrogen dominance is things, and I know because my estrogen's just dropped, is my anxiety is so much better, my brain chatter is so much better, and my fear response, like that story we tell ourselves, which then feeds back into the adrenals as well. We've got our whole parasympathetic nervous system on high alert. It's why do you think so? No matter where I look, most of the data seems to be on estrogen over progesterone. A lot of what I hear about progesterone, it's in the background balancing out. So we like to say estrogen's the party, the heightened, the beauty, the repair, the in all the cells. And then people speak about progesterone. And I know you like to talk about it a lot because she brings in balance. And my doctor's always said one is like ecstasy and one is like Valium in the body. So you've got one that excites the whole system. And then if you don't have that progesterone, which you always talk about is you get a fear response, you get hives, you get a history, everything's overactive, right?
Absolutely. And I don't know why progesterone was such a bad reputation, but to be almost like meh, it's because she's quieter. And I think we live in a world that is anyway overstimulated. So we are in an estrogen world, right? In that way, like overstimulated. And testosterone, of course, is like that. We have to go, 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 go.
Yeah.
But realistically speaking, progesterone is equally, if not more important, to keep us calm, because not only does it balance, but like really it resets. And it is pretty anti-inflammatory because we need to make sure
Yeah.
that we're not in a state of fight or flight all the time. So this is the that's why I was saying at the beginning, these two have to dance together. But the body is perfect. It's perfectly made to have these things in balance, and it's what we do to have them go out of balance, which we can talk about in a moment. Um, because another part of symptoms that shows up for perimenopause, it's lack of sleep, and that is definitely connected to the gut brain axis. It's
Yeah.
a low progesterone. This is mostly progesterone based, and so people don't sleep as much, and they struggle because they're exhausted by not sleeping over time. And this is something that women in menopause find it also hard to do, which is sleeping through the night. And a lot of it again to do with the liver. Like if your liver is working well and you're letting go, you might get up to p once, but you're not going to get up all the time. However, if you're not in 100% state of health, you might get up a few times. You not necessarily to go to the bathroom, but just getting up in the middle of the night, and not going, being able to go back to sleep. And so that has got to do a lot with progesterone. And this is one of the biggest symptoms that unfortunately um, happens a lot. The other thing, because of progesterone, sorry, you want to say something?
Oh, just the thing I think why progesterone gets such a bad name is I hear people who go on estrogen and it will change their life or break their life. Like they'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm young again. I feel like myself. This is amazing. This is what I was missing. Almost all people I know who have gone on progesterone have had negative effects. They
Mm.
haven't, whether they go low or high, they're like, I'm not. And it's right. We are a male dominant, estrogen dominant. You get up into estrogen, it acts like testosterone, trust me. It feels like it. You just go, go, go. It is a steroid. It is a steroid. So, and the other one is more calming. So I think that gives it a bad name, is a lot of people. But when you find someone it works for, they love it. They love,
Mm-hmm.
but I find those are more rare than, and I actually, my personal take on this is I feel like most of my life is like coffee is my body's relied on estrogen. It's actually relied on the dominance. And I feel psychologically that's why I'm always drawn to push my estrogen, even with side effects, because it makes me more efficient, faster, but then also I feel bigger and stronger in a world where femininity isn't appreciated, especially when it comes to, like, when I think of even work, is you're very fast, you're very quick, you're very more aggressive.
Yeah.
And whereas progesterone won't do that. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's very true. And in terms of, getting into that kind of space, but I also think that we have to start really valuing the calming part and the
I
not being
agree.
incredibly like productive all the time, because actually the art of not being productive, that alone, and not feeling guilty about maybe sitting down and reading a book and do nothing else, it's or just sitting there. What science has found is like just sitting there and actually daydreaming is so wonderful for our brain and for our health, and that alone will support natural progesterone, by the way. So it's as I was saying before, like that's why our life is driven by testosterone and estrogen as the energy, as well as of course the hormones.
Yeah, and just on a side note is a lot of, and I know we're always, the beauty norms are always changing. But if I think of how, so beauty norm, what is, I'm talking about the media. Skinny apparently is back in now, but there was, in the past 10 years, it was curves. Now,
Mm.
and even like having a little bit of a pouch and a lot of weight, having implants on the butt and the thighs. The only time my body looks like that is if it's holding excess processed food mixed, or the wrong food mixed with hormones. That's what I've noticed with my hormone replacement. You can literally, and I think you become very sensitive with raw foods, you can literally see it on your body. And as you decrease it, it goes away. So it's there, it's, And then what the opposite to that is shutting it all off, right? Is if we go through skinny periods, is basically that's adrenaline. Your body's just going to run off cortisol.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really valuable to think about these things. But this is not the problem for the most people, you know, like when it comes to perimenopause, like the symptoms. I'm talking about the people that just really go through life and then start having all this array of different symptoms naturally. But what they do after could link into this, like, okay, what's going on about me, and getting this message that I need to be skinny. So a lot of women stop eating, which is the worst thing you can do, especially as you go through perimenopause. So there are all these things that we can talk about in a minute. One other and linked to the sleep is anxiety. Again, anxiety becomes a problem. Like, why am I not, focused? Being able to handle stress. I feel overwhelmed. And then, of course, the other thing is focus. So brain fog is a big one that can come up in perimenopause. And you're like, why don't I remember certain things? I was just doing something and I don't remember. I mean, today it happened to me. Like, I was rushing. This is when, you're stressed. I had to take the train, and I was in my office with my puppy, and I was calling the taxi. I know it's a Sunday. I was at the office, but I was calling the taxi, and because she's a dog, and a lot of drivers want her to be in a cage. I always tell the driver that basically I have her not in a cage. She goes on the floor. She's very clean. And two of them canceled on me, which meant I honestly had such a short time to get to the train station now, because it takes like 8 minutes, and 10 minutes, and then like you canceled. I had 45 minutes before my train. I got there 3 minutes before it left, but it was fine. I really just trusted that it was going to work out. But the stress alone, I rushed out of the office, and I didn't remember if I turned off the aircon. So I'm on the train after all that stress of just running, and then I'm like, shit. Now this is like, I cannot leave the aircon on for 3 days. I mean, I'm only back in the north, on Wednesday. First of all, the bill will be massive, but aside from the bill, that's like the least issue, because it's that the people that put the aircon on have put this pipe into a 5-liter bottle because it didn't connect it to the drainage. So after a while, that bottle fills up and you have a flood if you don't change.
So no.
But I mean, the universe is perfect. So I managed to find a friend of mine that works in the clinic downstairs that was visiting one of the cats that needed the drugs. It's drugs, and she has my keys, and I left them a copy of my keys, and she went up, said to me, no, it's off. And I did not remember. I must have done it in such autopilot. For the life of me, I could not remember. And that happens when we're stressed, right? We are running, and we are therefore unable to really just put our thoughts together. So our brain fog can really accelerate as we get into perimenopause. And these things can happen more often. Now we can bring it down to the fact that it was a very stressful situation, but generally speaking, women do complain about this, and I hear it all the time. And that's like, your body is changing, your mind is changing. And in fact, to be honest with you, menopause and perimenopause perimenopause starts in the brain. It's not just the physical part. It starts in the brain.
So I want to preface here how much all I was affected by after surgical menopause was severe. It was like, this is the best way to describe it. And my friends had a hysterectomy as well. And you only notice it when estrogen. So I took for granted most of my life up until even when I was in chemically induced menopause, which didn't completely put me in. But after the surgical menopause I was on a lot of medications already, but antidepressants I was already on, stimulants I was on for ADHD. So there's a lot of dopamine, serotonin going on in my brain, right? I would lay there and look at things I'd looked at most of my life, and it's like the response into my brain was missing a frequency. And it's really hard to explain. Even back then, I was very dense. This sounds very spiritual. And it felt like we see a white wall and we go, oh, I love that color. It makes me feel something. And it's different. I've been with psych units, I have different levels of depression. It feels very different to depression, but I guess
Mm,
it's a form of depression, is everything is flat and dead. So you
mm,
can see a table, but it gives me nothing. It's not like, oh my God, yes, that color makes me feel, and it's probably a very feminine trait we have, right? I could barely move, right? The level of fun, and it wasn't even I was sad about my life or crying. It's like catatonic, really, is what it felt like. And then they put those huge levels of estrogen in. They had to find the right one because the cream, terrible for me, estradiol, a particular brand. I came back to normal, completely back to normal. Now, I have a friend who had a hysterectomy, and she was just kept saying she felt flat. She had a lot older. She still had her ovaries, but the uterus was gone. She goes, they gave me the cream. She goes, everything starts sparkling again. And it's very hard to describe. It happened to me again when I put the estrogen back in, when I'd let it go for 3 years. And it was New Year's Eve, and I walked home. I couldn't get up. It helped me with, it's more brain. It's always brain first for me. I walked home and I'm like, I'm so enjoying seeing life in everything again. And like men have estrogen as well, but it's they're testosterone dominant. So they have
Where more estrogen than women actually. It's
yeah,
just that in their
I
brain,
thought this.
yeah, in their brain, estrogen is converted into testosterone for men.
And then I've also got down to talk about DHEA and testosterone down here as well in the whole. But yes, it is very different. And my FND precursor, so that's shell shock, a severe, and I had to learn to walk and talk again, came on when my estrogen dropped with shingles through the eye. So you've stimulated the brain. It was just an overload, and whew. But the the thing for me is, and the reason I've gone up very high before, is my brain just works very efficiently. Like it just runs like it, blah, 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 talking, getting stuff done, very organized until it's not organized, and I have to bring it back down. But the severe level of, let's call it catatonic
Right?
depression is my main thing. Also, it helps the aging of my skin, and my eyes are a bit brighter. But for me, it's that level of depression. And I've seen PET scans of brains for women who even go through menopause as naturally as you think possible. And the part of their brain just completely shuts down. It relearns to rewire and light up somewhere else. But they show scans, and I'm not going to go search for it now, of a woman in perimenopause, menopause, and parts of her brain that she's used when they show cards and you start thinking completely, there's no light
Yeah.
anymore. But they say, they didn't show any scans, but they say the brain adapts. But it's only going to adapt how healthy you are, right?
Exactly. So we go back to the fact that most people are not living a healthy lifestyle, and the thing we have to remember is this. Okay, in your case, it's you are in you're in a surgical menopause.
Yes.
Let's talk about the general population who don't have surgical menopause, so they are going through these natural transitions. When we go through this, looking after your lifestyle is so incredibly important, because remember that we don't stop making hormones. We make hormones until the day we die. The
Mm,
difference is the hormones are not longer made in our reproductive system once we go into
mm,
menopause. So that decrease over time, it's that time and period. I really see it. I know there's doom and gloom about it, but actually I see it as this beautiful transition where the body's talking, the uterus is talking to your adrenals, and it's like, you're gonna have a new job soon. So I'm going to prepare you to deliver everything that I am delivering in a way that is efficient. Now, the
mm,
adrenals in a normal state, they will be like, I'm so excited to do this. I will create the progesterone and the estrogen. I will talk to the brain. I will make sure that everything is working properly. But now that we are so overwhelmed, overstretched, living on high cortisol, high adrenaline all the time, the adrenals are like, sister, I ain't got no time to do any of this. I don't have the batteries for it. So what do? We have to make sure that we're looking after our nervous system the whole time. Truly, we need to we have to look after our nervous system since we're children. Going through the whole of our life, and we do not know how to do this. We're not being catered to do this. But there's never too late to take it upon yourself to make sure that you're really taking charge of your health. And so what helps the your nervous system? Meditation. Well, food, first of all, food. Stop putting things that are stimulating into your body. And I'm not even talking about coffee, which has a lot of benefits for the brain itself. But if you're sensitive to caffeine, that's definitely not going to work for you. But if I'm talking about processed food, high sugar food, elements and food that damages your gut, right? Like ingredients that your gut cannot deal with. Like even there are even lecithin. I was listening to Dr. Tim Spector talking about gut health and chocolate. And our chocolate is wonderful for our health. But when you buy cheap chocolate, which shouldn't even be called chocolate really, and has a lot of lecithin in it, lecithin is not being proven yet. We're still studying it, but may be damaging your gut. We talked about the strobolome being incredibly important in there, and that's one bacteria out of trillions that we have that all have different jobs and work on different pathways. We have found that our brain and gut connection is super important and works well because of our vagus nerve. The vagus nerve was never even talked about. It was just this thing that goes up, through our body, but actually is where this connection and this communication happens from. There are ways that we can do exercises for the vagus nerve actually to tone it, support it. That alone will actually calm down our system, our nervous system. Sleeping, very important. So what sleep, how can you get better sleep? Well, sleep hygiene is the first thing you can do. So low hanging fruit, meaning don't have screen. I mean, we're not a good example for me here because it's late at night, but try not to be in front of your screen late at night before bed. Try not to bring the phone into bed with you. Try to make sure that you have a couple of hours where you are in soft light. Even candlelight would be ideal, where you're just screen free. Maybe you read a book. You are really just how you just get away from things, like from things that are excitable. If you drink caffeine and it works for you, again, lots of benefits in coffee, especially for the microbiome, but also for the brain. If it's got caffeine, have it in the morning. Don't have it later in the afternoon. If you are someone who cannot tolerate coffee, you can still have the benefits for your gut by having decaf, but of course it's not going to have the same impact on your brain. But you want to know, even matcha is very stimulating, although much less than coffee. But if you have it in the afternoon, it could actually impair your sleep. So you need to know how to navigate what works best for your body, and then do the things, just have a list and be like, okay, if I'm sensitive, like I'm having caffeine, if I notice if I have it after 8, 10 o'clock or 12 o'clock, I can't sleep. Like for me, I used to drink coffee, no problem, but at some point, even if I had it after 11 a.m., I couldn't sleep at night. So I'm only having decaf because I love the taste. And I cannot tell you how much I actually miss proper coffee because there are so many more varieties in coffee and the tones. And I'm like a coffee official. I love it. So, but you got to do what you got to do. I want to sleep. And so those things are very important. Yeah, again, going back to the diet, also like how do we, meditation, sports, activity, you gotta move your body. A couch potato, if you're exhausted, I get it that it's really hard to get up, but actually it's super important to push yourself because the good and the happy hormones that come, the serotonin that comes with just working out, it is so precious for you, to calm the nervous system.
Yeah. I first off, I have a sleep hygiene kit. I will attach after this, which is everything you said. A lot of it is very highlighted for me in a psychiatric unit. They use all those things, phone off, you medication exactly the same time, shower the same time, pajamas on, that will trigger the brain. And then chamomile tea, mask on the face. Is it going to fix people in a psychiatric unit or anybody instantly? No, but if you have that running in the background, it does take effect. It's 100% worth doing. And I think a lot of what you said, people need to be doing for all disease. Like
Yes.
I think what I believe happens with why perimenopause people start doing it is because they can't function. A lot of people will take a lot of cholesterol medication, diabetes medication, because they'll still function eating bad, not moving, with a drug and the side effects. You can't do that. The thing that happens to you when you hit perimenopause or menopause is you are now a very sensitive soul. You will feel the caffeine. You will feel having sugar late at night. You will feel a missed night's sleep. You will feel the hormone changes. And the most common thing, and you might want, because I know you do a higher protein diet, most common thing I see women find success in is they say, this is what I had to do. I had to quit alcohol, decaf, they can't handle the coffee. They must walk 12,000 steps a day, and they must prioritize protein in meals and not preservatives and much smaller amount of calories. I mean, the recommended intake for women in menopause is 1,600 calories. And I was trying to push, and I have no stomach, like a huge amount. But anyway, I've jumped there. But do you want to mention some of that? Because I know that's how you kind of do run your life, right?
Well, yeah, but I would say that calories really don't matter anymore. What matters is nutrients, you know?
Yeah,
I think,
true.
and to be honest with you, and when we talk about protein, we're not talking about animal protein here. Of course, I specialize in plant protein. So people who are controlling the calorie intake generally are eating animal products, which are very high calorie dense because, with a lot, you have nine calories per gram. We are talking about plants here, which are really, you're going to be in a calorie deficit by eating a massive volume of food, but that food is going to give you everything you need to stay healthy, which is the fiber for your gut, the vitamins, the minerals, like a high amount of micronutrients that your body needs. When it comes to macro, if you are active, and women should be active, and we need to definitely pick up weights, please, because your bone mass is important. You can go from a 0.8 recommended per kilogram of or gram per kilogram of body weight to 1.4. Even I need 1.6, and I don't even get it all the time because there's just so much I can eat. But
what is that of amino acids or proteins?
one protein 1.6 grams per kilogram. When you work hard, like when you work really, really long. I go to the gym almost every day. Normally, I have the last 2 weeks I took a bit of a break because I was feeling sick in terms of the weekend, but I generally can work out. I can do weights. I do weights at least 5. Again, it's not to bulk up. I don't want to, become huge, but I'm really like, it's all about toning and making sure that my bones are looked after by having good muscle mass. But again, I think 1.2 to 1.4 is a good amount of protein per kilogram. But you have to make sure that you look after yourself with the amount of of food that you have. How much do you bench press? To be honest with you, I don't do massive. Like you probably like 20. Well, I can do 20 kilos, but generally depends. If I go to the gym and do a class, it's more resistance than heavy weights because the classes are very fast and you cannot put a lot of weight on, otherwise you can injure yourself. So you want to do repetitions with lighter weight, maybe a 5 or 6.
That's what I find
Even
much
7
better.
is, yeah, 5 kilos is good, depending like bench press. So if you go and do actually bench press outside, you want to do it to fatigue. That's 20 kilos. You can do 20 kilos. I can do 20 kilos. I think that's a good way to go about it. Consistency is very important as well. So I believe that this is really when it comes to protein, understanding your body, your amount of activity and the need is important. So playing with these numbers from 0.8, basically sedentary person, to 1.6 very active person. But it's all about nutrient excellence, you know. And naturally, if you eat a big volume of plants and good protein from plants, you will probably have 1,700 to 2,000 calories. You don't have to diminish that, but the way your body will react to the food versus if you had animal products is going to be very different, you know.
Yes. I just want to bring up that not only myself, but many women, I guess, following me on a keto journey, still struggle severely with weight on a raw food diet. It is all nutrient dense food. And I think what I've seen is raw food is either very sweet or it's very fat. I believe there is a misconception on that when it comes, especially if you're younger. I think, but I think when you're younger, picking whether you get your calories from fat or sugar is easy. Most people do high fruit because your body is so efficient at processing blood sugars and the fibers going through your digestion's not slowed. I have noticed is when I was eating whatever I wanted on a raw diet, or even when I was eating fruit all day and any fat at night, is I was putting weight in problem areas. And at this stage, I do always want to preface here, I have no stomach, duodenum and top of intestines. So it's harming me to eat the volume I was eating. And that's just how it's why people have weight loss surgeries, to lose weight. I should not continually be putting on weight when I'm eating pure nutrients. I believe you, like you said, with the rice, you become very aware with what doesn't work for you. But I have noticed is women seem to, I should say, that's the general population where they talk about protein, is people seem to find in perimenopause great success with a higher fruit diet, which is high carbohydrates, or leaning more into the greens, veggies, and fats. And they've moved further away from having lenience into being able to have more fats. They really have to stick close to 10%, right? 10% either of sugars. If you're doing keto, it can vary, like Dr. Brooke is up to 25. And then you jump across, and the opposite to that is fat, where it's 10% fat or 25% fat. Have you noticed that?
I've noticed that. Well, I mean, first of all, where are people coming from? That's really, really important. Like, what were you eating before you moved over? We
No, these
definitely
women, long time. Like the people that are contacting me have been on raw diets a long time, and they just can't. The biggest struggle is, I think the people that are following me right now, is they have tried fruit and then they need some fats, can't get it in, the weight gain's excessive, overeating on the sugars, that sort of thing.
they get in the fat while they're still having the fruit.
So even the 10% fat is not working for them. Any fat in their
Yeah.
diet.
Do they? I mean, we have, you know, this is a case by case too. Like, what is that
Of
person
course. Yeah.
adding the fat, even if it's just 10%? Are they adding the fat whilst
At the
they
end of
still
the day.
high amount
Yes.
of
So
fruit?
each person is obviously going to be individual, but I don't see this in other populations. It is more, I will say, in the menopause group, towards the end of perimenopause, into menopause group, but nobody else is contacting me about these type of issues. And so I have noticed that this insulin sensitivity, and I'm in 15 years now, and it seems that these people find fruit, they're like only got through menopause with the fruit, or they're like, Sky, what do I do? This is just, I can't control either the amount they're eating. They can't, that blood sugars are staying up much, going up higher and dropping. And yeah, so that's a trend, like I would say predominantly that's where my comments and messages come from right now.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm not I'm, you know, I love fruit, it's brilliant, but I think not all fruit works for menopause. There's also a way to eat in menopause and perimenopause too. There's a way of fasting and feasting, but also, yeah, I don't believe that actually having a lot of fruit can benefit women who are going through this insulin resistance. I think leveraging less starchy vegetables is probably
Yeah.
the better way, because when you do that, and even if you add the fats, your body's going to be much more available to metabolize the fat and the vegetables, the carbohydrates from the vegetables, than starches. Because the thing is this, fruit is higher in starch, except for like berries, for example, or
Yep.
some like apples. So when
The
that
two that
happens,
I could tolerate last, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you, that they're the two, and they're the two that I am missing. I want to one day put back in. I just thought I'd
yeah,
say that.
yeah, exactly. But
They're
those
the
are
only
the
two.
bananas and mangoes and papayas. There is a place for them, when for a healthy person that is found the balance, there is a place for it. For a cycling woman, I mentioned this last time, but for a cycling woman who is going through perimenopause but still as a period, your starchy vegetables and your starchy fruit can come in the through ovulation time and the week before your period is due. So
Mm.
the last week before day one. Then you have to balance it out. So from day 1 to day 11, you are going to be having you're going to eliminate the sweet potatoes, you're going to eliminate the starches, you're going to eliminate the bananas, the papayas, all that. You are going to have a very low glycemic index kind of diet to support estrogen, because the response we have to the food and our sensitive to insulin or resistance to it does depend on hormones. So you have to support the hormones that are making this happen. And so what does estrogen like? Estrogen likes low glucose, progesterone
Yep.
likes high glucose. What happens in menopause when you're no longer cycling? In menopause, the dance usually is we are going to have 3 days low starches and 1 or 4 days, and one day you can have your starchy veggies and fruit. But you can see the trend here. We have these days, but none of it is have a tub of ice cream, have a loaf of bread. Everything is really to do with, nature.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one thing. The other thing is fasting. During
Yeah.
menopause, you have the luxury actually to fast really long hours, because now
Yes.
you're catering for estrogen who loves fasting. You don't have to worry about progesterone anymore. So because you're not getting a period, so you don't have to have it rise to an extent where she has to be hired for bleeding, for shedding the lining. You can fast 72 hours, no problem. You can do
Yeah.
it once a month, every 6 months, you decide. But you can also fast every day. You can fast 20 hours. You can do
Yeah.
much easier with that, like a man can all the time. In cycling women, we have to again follow the ebbs and flow of our cycle in those 28, 29, 30 days. And so
Mm.
there are times fasting where from day 1 to day 11, again, you can really go hard on the fast. Then in 12 to 16, less hours, about 12 to 13, not longer than that. Then you go back into fasting a little bit longer, up to 18 hours. If you want to go into autophagy, you can actually do 17 hours, because 17 hours, it's what gets you into autophagy, autophagocytosis. And so,
That's a word in itself.
yeah,
Phagocytosis.
and then the last week before your period, you try not to fast. So you do 12, 13 hours, which is an overnight fast when you're sleeping, which means you end up, you end eating before 3 hours before going to bed, which is always, always, always advised. And then
Mm.
you sleep it overnight. By the time you get up in the morning, it's 12 hours, 13 hours. So it's really, really, it like you have to understand your body. You have to understand that every
You
problem with
do.
comes down to these hormones and how we look after them. Once you get those hormones in and you understand what estrogen wants and progesterone wants, then you can cater for them, and that way you are going to actually sort out a lot of the symptoms we discussed here, which is brilliant. But it can take a bit of time, especially for somebody that is completely off balance for one reason or the other. Because even a person that has been raw for a long time, did well on fruit before, and now is not doing it anymore.
Right.
How long did it take them to understand what was going on with their body and that this doesn't work anymore? And it's
Long
like it
time.
could take a bit of time to get back into
Mm.
for the body to adapt again. So maybe they are going to struggle a little bit when they add more fats, and even if they take out a lot of the fruit that they were eating before, there's an adjustment period.
There
We
is.
we also look at the blood work, what's going on with the body. Do the triglycerides go up? Do we have How is your fasting glucose? How is your A1C? Even more important. Like, we have to look at these things. And another thing that happens when we go into this lowering estrogen phase, is that heart disease becomes a problem. So we start seeing cholesterol go up, even if we eat the best diet possible. And so we have to understand how to manage that too, which is actually why working out is so important too. And a lot of women are put on statins straight away, but statin will not work for women if the hormones are not looked after. So again, the doctors, you said doctors are more aware. I'm going to just disagree on the experience here. I think a lot of doctors are, because we are following doctors that are, but the general medical practitioner doesn't actually understand what's going on with HRT. They are still
I
reading.
don't think they understand. I just think there's more prominence in acceptance. So I feel like, because I've been on HRT, let's come from the HRT side of things, is it's almost like they're like, but it can cause cancer. They're very reluctant, but I've had a hysterectomy. So it's they know that I need it, right? Because I go and see I don't go back to all the doctors I used to. I just go to a medical center. I know what I need. And then once this all changed, it's all that's going to help you they're spitting out very you're right, they haven't had the experience. But what I was trying to say is, as soon as you come in, they're happier now. Before it was they didn't want to as much, or that it wasn't even at their brain. They would just give you antidepressants. Now it seems they're giving that, but you're right about the experience for sure.
But I think you really you have a good doctor if they are really like that, because I still hear the whole, I go in and I get the gaslighting. I get told this in my head.
I hear this in different countries.
So it is a little bit more.
Because this is the same clinic, and I've seen probably 5, whoever's on, right? So, and they're all very different, very different. But because of that shift over, but I have heard people in Canada, Japan can't get. So I'm thinking it might just be a cultural thing too. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No, but I've seen it even in Portugal. Like, I told you last time, I think sometimes I go for fun, which is not a lot of fun when you have to pay, but okay. I go to see, I have an amazing OBGYN, but I go and see sometimes, I don't have to go now, I know what's going on, but I've been to see 2 gynecologists in 2 different private hospitals. You would think you pay for this appointment. I still get only 15 minutes with these people, okay? They can't wait to get me out of the door. And I'm like, I'm just paying you 150 euro. I'm quite sure I can stay here a little bit longer. They don't ask the right questions. They don't know what's going on. I have been told by one, it's age. I'm like, okay. The other one is like, oh, I only prescribe HRT in this case, in this case, in this case. I'm like, okay, interesting. And I didn't go there for HRT. I just went there to see, if how they work. Yeah, like, and also talk to them. And I was asking questions to this lady. And then in the end, she said, we can only, in this hospital, we can only really prescribe things that the government approves of. We don't do the patches. We don't do things like that because the insurance wouldn't cover it. So this is not like Brazil. Like, Brazil is very advanced with HRT, super advanced. And I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I've been on HRT off and on from 19 years old. Now, when I first went on it, it wasn't covered by the government, but I had very, very, very good doctors, like in the best part of Sydney, or then it went over to professors who fly around the world and would come in, and so very top doctors, right? But when I first started, it wasn't covered. My private health insurance would cover part of it, but you go to a compounding chemist only, and they would compound these. That's how it all was mainly driven back then, because the good doctors had so much control over what was going in my body. It was designed for me, very expensive a month back. Anyway, as time went on, because you're right, my experience is I've been around top doctors and it's covered by the government. For someone like me who still gets very highly subsidized things from being so sick, it's very, very inexpensive in Australia. Like it's less expensive for a month's work. It's more expensive to get a Happy Meal from McDonald's, than it is for me to get hormones for an entire month. Like $5 Australian. What's that? $1.50 euros
Yeah.
or something like
Yeah.
that for me, because it's heavily subsidized, because it takes years to come off what I was on after being so sick, that medication level of being subsidized. So it's like candy in Australia. But what you're saying is, because I've got people all over the world, they go, my doctor doesn't do it. It's not. And so you're right. Isn't that sad? Like, I'm not saying, it can be good in a lot of cases, but it's not being made on each woman's situation. It's being made on whatever the government's funding.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, I think we have to also clarify, we are not saying that women have to go on HRT. It's a
No.
very
100%.
personal.
I think it's the worst. If
Yeah.
you haven't looked after yourself, I think if your body is just in chaos and you go and put in another hormone, it won't fix the problem. It
No,
will
and
just
exactly.
chaos.
Yes. So you need to, this is an option, and after talking to doctors, doing your blood work, understanding what's going on in your body, and you can bioidentical instead of just pure chemical better, because that means they are still pharmaceuticals, but they are designed to mimic our body's
Yeah.
hormones. So they are just gonna work and be welcome a lot better. But again, but when you go through perimenopause, I don't believe you have to go on HRT. What I'm trying to say though is this is the time and the opportunity to change your lifestyle, optimize,
Yes.
add in different things, understand your body, try different things from what you've done before. Like, always take notes about your journey so that you know exactly what is working and what is not. Prioritize yourself. Start saying no to things and people. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to look after everybody. That is such an important part of this period of time where we're transitioning. Trauma, working on that trauma that has been with you since childhood. This is the opportunity. I can tell you something. I have seen people in practice who, dealing with the trauma alone, made them lose weight. And we didn't even go and talk about the hormones, because their body, we become more sensitive when our hormones go down. So little traumas, not little, the traumas that have been there in the back of our mind since childhood, that we have been rationalizing, that we've been working with or dealing with, they may have felt like they were nothing before, but as we lose our hormone levels, now they're going to start coming to the forefront as something that brings us anxiety, pain, that make us feel uneasy, and we get triggered much more. So working on those traumas at this point in our life, it is the biggest favor you're going to do to yourself, and that alone will change everything about your body. Then you start, of course, supporting from every angle. This is not a one-way journey. It's a very holistic approach journey.
Yeah.
That's it. If you don't do it 360 degrees, you're not doing it, you know?
Yeah. So when I look at it, I would say to somebody going through perimenopause, or they've gone into menopause, is your first job is to do the work that you can do. You need to do your part before you show up to a specialist and say, well, I've got all these problems, you fix it. You need to, be like, am I sleeping okay? Lowered stress, good food, and movement. And if you're rinse and repeating and you still got problems, then you can, of course, get your hormone levels checked, and it will work better for you. It will be the point if you decide to have some put in, without getting yourself into more chaos.
Exactly.
I did also want to just say, just because I've had experience with it, is when it comes to, one second. Okay, so when it comes to it's DHEA. I've been So DHEA should be made by the adrenals, right? And it should be, and this feeds onto testosterone because a lot of women choose to use testosterone as well as
Yes.
part of the whole package. I was a lot of the time prescribed the DHEA, which allows the body to decide whether it will make. It doesn't give you the idea was it wasn't going to predominantly give me as many manly features or estrogen features or problems, testosterone problems, estrogen, because the body will choose to make what it needs. But if your body's in chaos, it's going to probably make the wrong thing anyway. So that has been prescribed for me as part of my package before I had the hysterectomy. And testosterone, we don't have huge amounts, and I don't like it because very quickly I lead into that testosterone, androgen. My structure changes. I'll get spots, shoulders broaden. I don't like it, but I do see women who do use a little bit of testosterone in their HRT package and seem to like it. But I do notice it's the thing that seems so common is these women are wanting more strength. And that's the determinant as your living lifelong. Whether you speak to a paramedic talking about the people he finds dying of old age, he said they're just withered away. People, I think if you've been on HRT, they said if you have an accident over 70, you have 30% chance, higher chance. And we're talking about raw vegans here. This is all looking up. This is the general population. So it seems people are trying to get a protective mechanism. And I'm like, I don't like it. But what are your thoughts on testosterone and the androgens?
So, again, women make a lot of testosterone during ovulation generally. So we actually make it, and we have a lot of it. The way when androgen get out of control is when we have a dominance again. When there is lower, well, either there is a drop in estrogen, so the testosterone is higher than estrogen should be. That's a problem, or we have hormone disruptors that create more testosterone into our body. So again, depends on the person and what they're going for. Funny enough, there is no medication testosterone pill that has been designed for women's use. So the gynecologists and the OBGYNs in the US who use testosterone for women, even in the UK, to support women, they have to regulate the amount that is used in order to support women. And testosterone is used for strength, but also for sex drive, because that's
Yes,
something
true.
that
Sorry. Yeah.
with can go away through the perimenopause to postmenopause stage. And some women really want it back. They want that wanting to have sex back. So a good practitioner understands hormones can work it out, but there is absolutely not formulation made for women. So
it's different in Australia. So we are most women who can afford, and if you can afford to go to a endogynecologist and have your hormones checked, we're prescribed I can't think what it's called right now. It's compounded. So our hormones are designed. So most women go in and there is some women who just want the patch and stuff, but if you're going to be on estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, and testosterone, it's designed and it's dissolved in the mouth. A Trochet, I think that's what it's called. And I think you can get it in other ways. I've actually had a pellet put in of it, but that's it. Don't want to do that. It's like once it's in, it's
yeah,
in.
pellets are not. I'm not a fan of pellets, and
Yeah.
I would rather
So it
do
sounds like it's different where people are.
Yes, it's very different. Absolutely very different.
So,
And again, it's a new, and you mentioned before, like it's a trending thing, and it's definitely a trending thing. And I'm definitely still learning so much. Like I'm sure that as I learn, and I don't prescribe, as you know,
yeah.
I am very well informed. I want to learn all about it to have conversations with my clients, and then the moment that conversation needs to go down to we have to make a decision, this is when I bring in the OBGYN that has been educated about it. So I have colleagues that I can reach out to, and have a conversation with. And I love that, because those are doctors that are actually open to talking. A lot of doctors don't even want to talk to a naturopath, like nothing. They just don't, they're not interested, which is
Yeah.
really, but when I have colleagues that do, that's brilliant, because they really do support. For example, one of my older clients, she's in her late 60s, and she has osteopenia. And so a few years ago, she was put on medication for it. But the medication for osteopenia, or osteoporosis in that case, actually, um, what it does is that it promotes the building of the bone while you're on it, but the moment you stop, it actually accelerates the loss. So she had so many side effects that she wanted to get off it, and she did.
Yeah.
And so obviously she has a fused back, like a spine, and she started having more problems with this. She went to a clinic in the UK where they focus on HRT only. They're HRT focused clinic, and beautiful, because that really helps. And one of the things that the doctor did is prescribe different elements, including testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. We looked at the DHEA. We looked at everything, and she went back to the GP. It was like, your DEXA scan is looking very bad. You have to go back on this medication. And she was really, so I said, okay, why don't we talk to the HRT clinic again? You only just started. Let's give it 6 months. Even if you stop losing bone, I think it's a progress, where then you can
Oh,
decide if you,
100%. Yes.
right. She's
Yeah.
now doing Pilates, some resistance training, but she has actually slowed down the way that she loses, because it takes a bit of time for the body to now start taking in these hormones. But the pressure from the other doctor to take the medication, without even having acknowledged the fact that she was, well, she's menopausal and she had no hormones left. Like, because when she went into menopause, nobody actually put her on HRT when she probably needed it, because the levels were very low. Um, this is also a woman that has a lot of trauma that has to deal with. Like, you see how many aspects to look after there are. But if we just look at
Yes.
the chemistry, okay, well, actually, hormones will support you not losing bone. So let's talk to a doctor that understands this. And then, that will encompass different things, including she was put on testosterone for strength and for the bones, not for sex drive.
Yes, I think, and look, I have brought up HRT a lot today, and I don't. It's not to promote it. It's simply so I could describe things going on in my body for people to understand. If the foundation of why I do so well 15 years into menopause is not the HRT,
Yeah.
it is what I do every day. That
Okay.
is like how sick I think I would be if I tried to, without all the things numbing me with all the antidepressants and the opioids I used to be on, what it would probably do to me and was doing to me. And I even try and get it down as minimal as I can, because I want in the background food, movement, rest. And that is like the foundation. And the other thing is, no matter what disease, life, if you're a human, if you're an animal, those, eating well, sleeping well, low stress are going to be the foundation to help you reverse or control or feel much better. But yeah, hope that comes across is that it's an eighth of my management of menopause that I'm in and been in for a while. It's
Yeah.
mostly what I do, my actions daily.
Yeah, and exactly why we were saying in the beginning, we are not promoting HRT. It's not about HRT, and I do not actually necessarily want women in perimenopause to even think about it just yet. If you're in your mid 30s, because I heard people, like, women are like, oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna start going on HRT. Like, why? Like, wait, you know?
So doctors, there must be some research out, because I keep saying that women are actually, and there's a reason for this, women are doing better if they're starting HRT in their 35
Before,
to 40
no, in
before they
40,
even,
40, before you go into menopause, around
yes.
40 is the
So
age.
there's doctors saying this, but you have to remember what these people's lifestyles are like. So if
Yeah.
you're overinflamed, chronically stressed, and you've tanked out your hormones
Yeah.
already, it's just picking up slack, but you will pay. You will, it will come. It's only like, and there's not enough research. I mean, these women haven't been going through it long enough, but they're just saying that they're noticing they go through it. So I also wanted to bring up the fact that I spoke to my mum about this on the weekend. My mum, who I'm very closely genetically linked with, went through menopause like a breeze. No hormone replacement therapy, didn't feel it. And she's aged really well, I think. I look at photos and I keep saying, like, what's your secret? Because she's had Lyme's disease as well. Like, what is your secret? And then you've got some, then I look at my, well, don't want to go too much into genetics, but my grandmother on mum's side had to have a hysterectomy at my age as well, and got into a mess with the antidepressants, the Valium. This is prescribing Valium was going to cure everything back then. They didn't give her HRT, then HRT fixed her. And my other grandma had small amounts of estrogen, which just made her feel better, but didn't really have effects. So that's just linked in my close family, right? My mom, she didn't, and I really, but I've had a hysterectomy, so.
Yeah, but they do say that from grandmother to grandchild, it could skip a generation. So whoever
I
they
do
give,
mirror very closely mums. I look like my dad's mum. I look more like my dad, but we had the exact same experience where we had to have not the same reason, hysterectomies. And then we had the catatonic type depressive symptoms. And that was when they prescribed, I was on Valium, but I was never changed. It was a very small amount for my pain. That's what they used to manage. And then they gave her hormones. Then they took it away because it causes cancer. So it depends. And yeah, so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, it's fascinating how when you look at something straightforward, but this is the beauty of medicine and health, really, if you think about it. And
Yes.
I know that there is, when they make a pill, they make it for everyone, but actually any medication needs to be prescribed according to the person. And not, it's not candy, it's not like, hey, give it free to everybody. It's truly, truly something to pay attention to, of how we do things. But the things that you have control over, that you can do without prescription, that's your lifestyle, and that's where it all come from. And we look at the root cause of everything, and lifestyle is the root cause of many ills, because people live very toxic lives. And I actually wanted to plug in something else: endocrine disruptors, down to our
Yes.
skin care and skincare, clothing, uh, cleaning products at home. If you're still going to the supermarket and getting these commercial things, and then I would just really, really suggest that you save some money and start cleaning just with apple cider vinegar and a couple of essential oils, if you cannot afford the organic, more specialized cleaning products. But for the love of God, stop using anything that is in the supermarket. That stuff is poison to another level. The other thing is your skincare. Look, I know it costs more to buy organic and to buy better skincare, but there's also a way you are going to save a lot of money when it comes to, like, a lot of the products that they sell, for like wrinkles and stuff. Use uh, I don't know,
Castor
uh,
oil.
castor.
Castor
That's
oil
what,
with frankincense.
castor oil as a serum. Jojoba, which has the
Yes.
same setup as
Good one.
makeup and serum, sebum, so it will really go well with your skin. Even just that, soaps. That now, I mean, it's very easy to find handmade soaps that are not poison, whether in liquid form or Castile soap is amazing.
Yep.
Like, invest in good products. Your makeup, if you love makeup like us, then buy organic, non-junk makeup. It will pay off, because I mean, it's an investment, but like, we don't you don't use so much that you change it all the time. Like, my makeup lasts forever. I don't know about
Yeah.
you. Yeah, so
Mine
it's
lasts
like,
over two. And a few tips, because when I started, I was, you know, disability payments and like I couldn't afford. So I just used for years. I did use some jojoba because I had some, but mostly coconut oil.
yeah,
I wash my hair in this basic rosemary and apples, because a lot of people go, I can't do it because I can't afford it. But giving your body a complete break and then learning how it responds years later when you put things back in is a pretty good gift to give to yourself.
Yeah.
And I would use we call it Dr. Bronner's.
Yeah,
It's the
Castel soap.
the Castel. And the only makeup brand I could use before, and apparently this is a lot of people going through cancer radiation use, is a brand called Perez. Have you heard of them?
Yes, I
E-R-E.
never used them. I used another Australian. Actually, I have an Australian brand called Inica.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of natural brands here
Amazing,
in Australia.
amazing
But
brand.
I found a Rare Perez was expensive, but I never used it really. So I held on to that makeup for the 3 years. The only time I'd use it was when I was on camera, which wasn't very often at the start. But it's every ingredient on that list is food, whether they've dried it, oil of turmeric, or just everything is literally food. And the girl I got it off, because I was even trying like Ilia, which is supposed to be a natural, but no, my skin at the start would just burn with anything. So that, if that helps anybody, actually on my channel, and I'm glad I did this, is my beauty guide
Oh, nice.
2.5 years ago. So all like the rosemary, and I actually have a natural beauty book coming out in all the, like papaya skin scrubs and mint and shea butter to moisturize the feet, and like very rosemary hair oil, lemon I lightened my hair with. You can do it, guys.
Yeah, amazing. And this is actually at the market that I have. I interviewed her for my podcast, Naturally. She makes amazing skincare products. I was telling you last time. I was like, I have to find a way to get
Yes.
the
Yes.
bomb. The bombs. I cannot tell you that stuff is just like magic. And so, and again, all made with ingredients that you literally, if you ate it, you might have
That's,
everything.
yes,
Because it's like,
expensive meal though.
but
It's edible grade. Is like
it's
that's yeah. Everything on my body when I was doing my deep releasing and detoxing and was all edible. So the rosemary, I mean, you don't want to eat that really, but the rosemary, apple cider vinegar, the coconut oil, and then you can eat the rare Perez, but damn, that will be an expensive meal.
So yeah, absolutely. It's so important to have these things because endocrine disruptors are everywhere. So even folate, if you have in your home, please, the first thing you can do, don't buy scented candles, don't buy these plug-ins, throw them all away immediately. Anything that smells really strong is gonna have phthalates, and they are terrible for our hormones. They disrupt our endocrine system, and they make us gain weight. So that alone, please, like, get rid of it.
All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk on?
Nah, I think we covered all of it. I think we covered a lot of it. And I know today's a little quieter because it's Easter and people are celebrating.
Yes. Yes,
But
it is.
yeah, I hope we can get people listening to this after and still ask questions, because I know I know women going through perimenopause feel really, really lost. And I think it's a
Yes.
time where you can feel this way, but it's also an opportunity.
Yes. Okay, guys. Well, I am going to be in Thailand next week. So I did send out to my subscriber list just saying I would update everybody for the rest of the week and for next week, because I need to just get there and see what everything's like. So stay posted for that. Thank you, Chantal. This was
Thank you.
amazing.
I
Um,
always love
yeah, maybe next time, because I feel like there was a lot to cover, even just in the maybe chemical or science type side, is we can talk more on the trauma side of all of this, because I feel like what you said is so true and I think his name is Chase Hughes talking, a neuroscientist, talking about how you will not move past emotions until you process them. And I think the way we design life is it's all just stuck. You go through your 20s and then you're a mom and you're so busy and then your hormones change. And you feel like you have to process. There's no protective, distractive. So we could do something on that.
I think maybe next time we'll definitely talk about the dark night of the soul, and that just goes
Oh
right.
yeah.
It goes right into that. There's no more BS. You face it or you face it.
I remember, just before we go, when I was really sick, watching YouTubers talk on the dark night of the soul and twin flames and all of this. And I was like, well, damn, I've been through so much. This dark night of the soul could be a walk in the park. And to this day, losing my stomach was a walk in the park versus losing me and what I went through and my hormone, all of that with the dissociative, like that who we are and mental health. Wow.
Huge. And you know, I saw a post, your post last couple of days where you went shopping, and for the first time, you were like, I buy clothes because I feel like it's me again. That alone, I think, is such a, you know, an evolution from where you were with like this dissonance of who am I, you know, like what am I,
Yeah,
what am I about, you know, like even your taste in clothing, like people take these things for granted, but they are really they are part of our personality, you know, like what we like and how we dress and what we're comfortable in and
100%.
we feel when we shop.
Like that, and it's confused. That emotional amnesia is so confusing because people, and even when I talk about my past now, and I can feel emotions in my body, and I knew something was missing because I felt different, but I could still talk. And very, mum's always said robotic. She said, ever since you split, she goes, anything you did was like you just rinsed and repeat with no emotion. People close to me would die, and I would see everybody crying and know that I should, and be not even be able to feel like, but it's such a weird experience. So yeah, yeah,
I can
I'm
relate
so
to that.
grateful.
Talk about it next week. I can definitely relate to that. Like I was thinking about it today. Sometimes I don't have the reaction that is expected, but I know that I'm navigating survival. Like I'm still like trying to be very rational about everything. So I don't respond. I mean, I respond to animals. Like I respond, you know, I when I lost my dog, one of my dogs, Coco, I immediately just felt the pain that you should feel. Like Marley, if anything happened to her, I know I would just, you know, feel everything. But when it comes to people, I have
Yeah.
I rationalize it. I'm like, okay, like I don't respond with like the same pain. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I really,
boost response. So I always
yeah,
think of what I learned in psychology about when a baby is born and it's uncomfortable and it cries, the mother will feed it or nurse it. Cries again, feed it, and it's part of our conditioning. And a neglected child will cry and will cry and we'll cry, and this will go on, but no one will come. And so
yeah,
eventually the body shuts that system down completely, because, and that happening so young, it just closes off. It's never
yeah.
like, we've at least had the experience, right? So I definitely get that. But interesting, when I went through this dark night of the soul, the only thing that really was always, and I think it was because it was always there, whether you're in a psych unit or locked up or the homeless or whether you got a home, is nature. How much my whole soul is here today. And also I relied on my phone because it was always with me. Even if there was nothing coming out of it, you attach yourself to something. Like I would just have to have it in my hand, even dead. It makes me know who I am. So
But it
yeah,
was your go to the outside world at some point, right? So
yes. Hope.
yeah.
We as humans, I believe, never lose hope. I truly believe in all of us. If there's something, whether it's our animal or the sun, there is hope. So
Thank you, Sky.
thank you, and see you guys soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.